Good evening. Good evening. How you guys doing out there? It's Mike back with In the Spotlight podcast. It's been a while after the first season. We took off some time, you know what I mean, to recuperate. And now I'm back with episode 40. We came on about 10 minutes a little early, you know what I mean? But it's all right. It's all going to be all good. And I'm happy to have my first guest of the second season, episode 40, Roshown Mcleod in the building, man. What's up, bro? Thanks for coming on, man.
What's up, Mike? Man, it's been a long time, man. I'm happy that you reached out, and Jersey, we got to show that love, man. So any way we can affect the community around us, I'm all in, man. So having these type of conversations are always great, man.
Indeed, indeed, man. First, I want to start off, man, by saying, thank you, bro, because I remember back in 2009 when I went through my tragedy with my wife being murdered and stuff like that, and I wanted to do a event in her name, and I reached out to you. I don't even remember how we hooked up, or maybe I saw you in the AU's tour or something, but I reached out to you and asked you could I do it at St. Benedict's, and you ain't even hesitate. And I'm always appreciate that because you ain't owe me nothing. Our relationship wasn't even like that. You just saw a brother in need and said, "Yeah, bro, you could do it up here. Just come up here. You could do it, man." And I want to personally thank you for that because I don't take nothing for granted because nobody got to do anything for you, brother. I just wanted to thank you for that, man.
Yeah, man. When people hesitate, man, you kind of see their heart a little bit. But like I said, for me, when you asked, it was like, let's make it happen. There's no hesitation about it. It was just one of those things that we had to celebrate and our life and we're all gonna come to that point. But how we remember people is gonna be how their memory is cherished.
Indeed, indeed. So, man, let's get at it, man. Starting
Hey,
off
man,
early,
I'm
man.
ready. I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Talk about growing up in Jersey City, man. What was it like? And what was life like that in Jersey City back growing up, man?
Um, it was when I look back, I look at all of the lessons learned. Like we talk about uh today because we got access to so much technology and things. The simple, Jersey City was simple. It was a simple place. It was a place where community and people were at integrity and all of these things that we learn from our inside our community. I grew up on Randolph Avenue, right by
Mm.
Arlington Gardens. My family, I'm a Pettiford. My last name is McLeod, my dad's last name, but for everybody in Jersey City, know I'm a Pettiford. Um,
Oh, I didn't know that. I did see Tahab dad in mad pictures with you, but I didn't know that that
yeah,
was your
yeah, yeah.
family. Wow.
So it's funny because his father and my grandmother, brother and sisters.
Wow.
So like it's funny because Trav used to bring Tahar down to Atlanta when I was coaching, and he was in like sixth, seventh grade. He would come down and practice with us for the first part of like 2 weeks before Jersey started, because we started late in Jersey. So he would
Mm-hmm.
bring Tahar down way back then just to practice with my high school team. So
Mm.
they've been on this journey since fourth grade. You already know, but
Oh yeah, 100%. They played in my tournaments. I definitely remember that. Yeah.
but Jersey City, man, it was just a place where it was a simple place where we could be children. Like we didn't have
Mm.
all the stress that a lot of these young kids have today. We were able to be young. We were able to be, uh, just be creative with the games that we played on the block. Playing different types of sports. Free fall and
Mm-hmm.
down the lots, like just going jumping from place to place, man, and being able to just walk like you could be a kid and not even though it was a tough place, it was a place of integrity where even the people who weren't always on the up and up, they still respected the community. And we don't see that too much today, but I would say that that was a part of how I grew up, and it really shaped who I am today because I was able to take a lot of those lessons and apply them to my life. But also, it's a way that I teach my children and the kids that I mentor
Mm.
today.
Indeed, indeed. And when did you first pick up the ball and really realize like this is something I want to do?
I started playing ball probably at 13.
Mm.
I played baseball. I played for Bob's Fishery from off the junction downtown.
Mm.
By 22 school, they used to have a baseball league down there. So my pops used to DJ at the D&G. So I spent a lot of time on the junction. I used to, I used to wash dishes at Dino's. Sweep the area,
Mm,
bill. Like growing up, just a lot of. I worked at Mr. Longo's. Like worked at Andy's. I mean, I was just all over the place doing a bunch of different things. But I played baseball all the way up to about eighth grade. And for those that know my mom, she was a pretty good athlete over at Lincoln, and she was a softball player. She was just about 6'5", 10, six five
mm,
11. She was really just a big time athlete. So in eighth grade, I was about 5'8", but when I got to high school, I was about 6'2" over the summer. and
mm,
and then I was Mr. Frashone was our he was somebody that was really influential in my life and getting me to St. Anthony's because I was a really good athlete. And it was myself and Devon Duncan, who's sport. We all know him. We went to middle school together, well, grammar school together at PS 34, and
mm-hmm.
we both got we got used to go down to White Eagle Hall and practice on the Sunday mornings. And that's when we got accepted, and we decided to go to St. Anthony's together and play ball together. So that
So
was
that's
really
this
really
guy.
cool.
So the guy for Sean, he hooked it up for you to be able to go there. Now, was he a kind of a guy in the community that used to try to get kids out of the public schools and send them to different things?
Yeah, he was somebody that really wanted to see. He was big time in making sure that kids in the community got the opportunities, and he was really cool
Yeah.
with Eddie Rich. You remember Eddie Rich was the assistant
Mm,
coach at St. Anthony's, and he used to tell him about me in sport, Devon Duncan,
mm,
all the time. So, uh, you know, that's just that summer alone. And I ended up playing for Jersey City Boys Clubs the first year I ever played AAU basketball, and I got a chance
mm-hmm,
to play with well, actually, no, let's take a step back. Even before the Boys Club, I played with Brian Crawford for North Washington.
mm,
So
mm-hmm,
it's the
mm-hmm,
first AAU team that I played for at 14 years old, and we ended up
mm,
playing for Brian and then playing in youth games. Me and Halim, Jalil,
mm.
we all played for North Y at the time. And then as I started to grow and mature, Coach Hurley saw something in me that a lot of people probably didn't see originally, and so then he took a little bit more control over it. Then I went to play under Gary Greenberg, who was
Gary's my
the
man. I love
yeah.
Gary.
So
Always a
that's
good
when I got
dude, man.
yeah. And
Is
so I was
Gary still around?
I mean, last time I was home, I went to see him. So he's been around. So
I
I
gotta
got
go
to
see
see the
Gary. He
New Boys
supported me.
Club.
Man, he supported me for years, bro.
Yeah,
Good
I
good
got a
dude
chance to
right
see the New
there,
Boys
man.
Club. It's pretty nice, man. You'll like it. You should definitely get over there.
I'm gonna go
So
check him
yeah.
out, man. So you get to St. Anthony's. Did you know of Hurley's reputation beforehand? Had you been at the games? Like, what's your feelings walking into this school?
Well, honestly, I was going there honestly, and I thought I was going to play baseball because Willie Banks was there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and my family was really close to the Banks family. And Benny, people don't realize how as talented as Willie was, Benny was really the guy. He just had some issues that some
Mm-hmm.
demons that we all know about. If you grew up in the area, but Benny was the one that really had all the talent, but Willie was just more disciplined as a youth. And so I was going in. I wanted to play baseball, following in Willie and Benny's footsteps, and
Mm-hmm.
I just grew too much. I grew too fast.
You outgrew baseball, huh?
Yeah, my strike zone got too big.
Yeah.
I used to be a catcher,
Oh
and
yeah, he was definitely
my
too tall
knees
to
was
be a catcher,
hurting.
bro. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
wow.
they tried to put me on the mound, and I stunk it up. I did, So I was just like, man, you know what? Helene, everybody playing ball. I'm just gonna play ball. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's how I got stuck into basketball, man. And I was really skinny, fragile, just a deer in headlights, man. I had no idea. But since my friends played, I was just like, I'm gonna do it. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know this story. I actually quit as a 10th grader.
Yeah, I was about to get to that. I did my
Yeah,
research.
I
So what
I
happened
actually
that
quit.
sophomore year? What happened?
Yeah, we touched on this prior to even the conversation. I was afraid of success. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And I was getting really good, really fast, but I wasn't good enough to be good. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so I was embarrassed about not being good enough, but I was afraid of the success that I was having, and I didn't want people to see me fail. And so
Mm.
that was huge for me. So what I started doing was I started like working on the things down Garfield, and I would just go to
Mhm.
Audubon and play, but I didn't want to go to practice, and I didn't want to, I didn't, I didn't want to be embarrassed. And so I used to tell my mom I was going to practice, but used to tell Coach Hurley that I had to go to church. And one day, Coach Haas, Coach Hurley, they was at my kitchen table talking to my mom, planning out the rest of my life. But by this time, the funny thing though, but by this time I was like 6'7".
Mm.
As a sophomore, the end
Mm.
of my sophomore year, I was like 6'7", 6'6" and a half, 6'7".
Mm.
Um,
So your sophomore year, y'all end up winning it. I don't know how much varsity time you played.
I
Y'all end up
played
winning.
4 games and quit, man. I played 4 games. They still laugh
Ah.
at me today about that.
So then y'all come back. Y'all come back your junior year with high hopes. And did you guys lose to Maris in the playoffs?
Yeah, we lost to Maris, man. One of our few losses, man. We were, pretty much 1, 2, 3 in the country the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Roderick's having a wonderful year. I'm having a coming out party. Jalil's playing exceptional, but it was the three of us. I think we were like a three-headed monster, and we overshadowed the guys, our guards, too much. And so
Mm.
I think that was kind of the thing that kind of caught us on the back end against Maris, because they had guards that, John Giraldo, Dida, they had all these
Mm-hmm.
guards, and our guards were just overshadowed, and we were so good, we didn't have the balance in that when we needed it most. And then injuries kind of hurt us a little bit at the end, where I had a bad ankle going into the game, and Roderick got poked in the eye in the first play, first couple of plays of the game. So they came ready to play. You know what I mean? That's the
Mm.
Carolina rivalry for us in high school. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that game, they really brought it to us, man. They played really well. Donnell and John and I mean Jason Anderson. I mean, they just played really really well, and they just brought
See
it
what
to us.
happens if you turn your car light on inside the car.
Uh,
See if we give you a little bit of more brighter thing. A
How's
little
that?
bit better. Yeah. Yeah, that's a little better. So how does the coach handle losing championships?
It wasn't pretty, man. It wasn't pretty at all. It wasn't. It was almost like we started training for next year right away. You know what I mean? But we the physicality of the game. Like, I was still growing. Like I said, I was probably
Mm-hmm.
190 pounds, six
Mm-hmm.
seven. You know, um, so the weight room. We started going and getting even better with our strength and conditioning program. We the team itself. We all came in as freshmen, and it was about 17 of us on the team going into senior year, that
Mm.
Kashara, Jermaine Robinson, like, it was guys who really stuck through. They probably could have went to Lincoln and Snyder and other places and played. Bobby Morgan, who was on our freshman team, ended up leaving and going to St. Al's, and he was first team All State. Like, we had a
Mm.
bunch of guys. We all came in together, and we had a group of guys as seniors that stuck it out. That we had a better balance between our guards and our bigs, and we had a tremendous senior year.
Indeed, 1993 New Jersey State champs and TOC champions. Take me to that moment of winning that national title at that historic school like that. I mean, not the
So,
national. I mean the
well,
state title.
state,
Take
yeah,
me to the
yeah.
moment
We
of winning
finished.
that.
I think we finished 3 or 4 in the country that year.
Mm-hmm.
Behind like Simon Gratz and King, who had, they had Stackhouse, and
Mm-hmm.
at Oak Hill they had Stackhouse, and Rasheed Wallace was at Simon Gratz, and I think Rashard Griffith was at King. So we probably finished
Mm-hmm.
fourth in the country that year. But it was amazing because I mean you could see how many seniors we had. Lawrence Bethay, who ended up playing, moving over from the bowling team and playing with us in senior year to be the backup because we needed a backup center who did a tremendous job. And I'll tell you a quick story about Lawrence, when I get to the end. But that year, man, I would tell you it was more of it was a brotherhood, man. Our practices were competitive. We held each other accountable. The respect level was there. And junior year, Rod was so good. Everybody watched Rod play. This we had a real, like I said, we had a better balance in our team where Halim and Carlos and Baba and all the guys were able to really shine. And we wanted to see each other shine. It wasn't about one guy. I mean, and it wasn't Rod that was doing it. It was just the way that the way he was number one player in the country.
Yeah,
It's
the
hard
media.
not. Yeah, I mean the media just followed him, and they always
Hmm.
put the spotlight on him, and I think it took a little bit away from our team concept. But as a senior, we had a bunch of guys who, we were top 50 guys, top 30 guys, but we didn't get the same, we didn't have the Roderick Rose reputation, and so
Mm.
we had to go out and earn it. And I think that was the thing that was different. We had to earn it a little bit more, a little bit more.
Okay, okay. And how was he? How was his response when y'all finally won it? When I mean, not him winning the championship, but this group right here. How was he? How was the celebration? What y'all do? Like how was it feeling, especially winning the title and the tournament of champions?
And it's funny because he walked us through each game. I mean, it was crazy because it was only two coaches that I know of that I played for that could do this, Coach K and Coach Hurley, where
Mm-hmm.
each game the map was exactly what they said. I remember
Mm.
Coach K doing it. I remember Coach Hurley doing it. And before each game, depending on who we played, whether it was St. Pat's, whether it was Maris, who we ended up beating the following year in the same game at the Armory, which was a great, great game. It was very low scoring, defensive oriented, physical, and we ended
Mm-hmm.
up coming out on top. But every great player we played against that year, we were prepared for, and we felt like we deserved to win every game. But we also put the work in the summer prior. It wasn't
Mm.
something that we showed up during the season with a chip on our shoulder. At the end of losing to Maris, we started that year right then and there preparing together because, like I said, all the seniors that came back, that was the pack that we made.
Mm. What was what was some of the lessons that stood out for you? You got for playing for a Hall of Fame coach like Coach Hurley.
I would say the biggest lesson was just not giving up because, like I said, I quit as a 10th grader. My life could be very different had he allowed that to happen and not really taking in consideration going to sit down and talk to my mom about something he saw in me. So just really giving it your all, giving it a chance. Like don't just give up because it ain't working right now. And you probably read one of my previous posts on Facebook recently where I just talked about starting from the bottom and
Mm-hmm.
making little incremental taking incremental wins and really to young men, you don't always have to just jump in with instant success. um so that was probably the biggest lesson I learned is when you put the work in, it's more satisfying when you see the success and you see it starts to happen, but also sharing it with your teammates. That was also
Mm.
another lesson. Like a lot of times, especially today, when I watch kids play, everybody want to be hero. They play, we call it hero ball. We used to call it hero ball when we was young. Every kid is thinking that. But when you take all that pressure off yourself and you share that pressure with your team, I think everybody ends up wanting to do more for each other, and it makes you a stronger unit. So that was probably the two biggest lessons that I learned playing for Coach Hurley.
What's some of the? Give me one of your stories from because I heard different kind of mind game tactics that he used during practice and things of that nature. Nah, because I remember seeing one on the documentary when he had Mike Rosario and them, and he had and he had kicked him out of practice and tore him to him right before they was about to play
That was
the
my brother
championship
too,
game.
by the way. That was my brother he kicked
Yeah,
out.
and he said when they left out, he said, "I got everything I needed out of them. I just needed to shake them up a little bit before the game or whatever." Like, give us one of those kind of stories, man. I know you got
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I'll tell you one of this was me, so nobody be mad at me. so so junior year, we we playing Cherry Hill. We supposed to kill Cherry Hill, and we
Mhm,
go down there, and first couple of plays of the game, I go up and I fall on my hip, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna sit over here. We up 30 by halftime,
mhm,
but I didn't go back in the game. So I'm just sitting on the side. I'm like, man, I didn't really want to play the game.
mhm,
So we in the locker room, and coach is yelling at us like we down 30, but we up 30. And
mhm,
so I'm sitting on the bench behind him while he's talking to the team, and he's yelling at everybody. We're not doing this right. We have running. We're not sprinting. We're not doing this. All the little things. And he turns around and he sees me sitting behind him while he's talking to the team, and he
uh-huh.
goes, "Do you believe this? Look at this kid." He was like, he was like, "Are you hurt or you injured?" And at 15 years old, 16, I don't know the difference between the two. So I'm like, he's like, stand up. So I stand up. He was like, jump up and down. So I start jumping up and down, even though my hip is killing me, and I got a bag of ice that's in my shorts on my hip. And he goes, give me
Uh,
the ice. So I give him the ice. He takes the ice and he throws it against the locker. He was like, you're gonna play and you're gonna play well. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so he makes this comment and he goes, we're not going to have any Spirit of 76ers on the team. And I'm like, what is the Spirit of 76? At 15, 16 years, I have no idea what that is. And so I get out there. I've ended up with like 20 points in the second half. And,
wow.
we ended up winning the game by 50. But he was like, but it was just the energy, the inspiration, the fear, all the things,
Mhm,
being a 16-year-old kid, you could
mhm.
imagine what you could do when you're motivated enough. And so that's a good story. People they like Halim and they still be laughing at me at that story. They call me the Spirit of
Wow. Wow, that
76.
had to be dope. That had to be dope.
I
So
had to
you
look
wrapped
that
up
up,
your
by the way, too. I had to look that up.
so you wrapped up your high school career with the state title and the TOC. You know what I'm saying? That was a great job. And then it was time to go on to the next step. Um, you ended up at St. John's in the beginning. And who else recruited you and how did you end up uh with the St. John's Redmen at the time?
Um, so I got going into my senior year. I got the invitation to go to Nike and
Mm-hmm,
ABCD. Which back
mm-hmm,
then was the cream of the crop. It wasn't no
mm-hmm,
everybody went. It wasn't like if you a Nike guy, you go to this one. If you're an Adidas
mm-hmm,
guy, you go to this one. Everybody went to both. So I got a chance to really establish myself, and everybody was there. AI, Paul Pierce.
That's when they
Um,
flew AI out during the trial.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I knew he
I
was
mean,
nasty. They flew him
yeah,
out. He had
he was a
trial.
monster. Yeah, he was a monster. But it was like,
Uh,
I got a chance to really establish myself, and I left like top 30 in the country. And
mm,
myself and Jalil, we both had great showings. And when I left there, I started getting a bunch of letters and mail from. And I remember getting my a letter from Duke for the first
mm.
time. Coach was like, "Look at this." Roshown Mcleod gets a letter from Duke. What is really going on in the world today? Like, I mean, like I said, I got a million of those stories. But
Mm-hmm.
I started to realize that I could go to school for free, probably going into my senior year. And
Mm.
my top schools were Wake Forest because I was a huge Rodney Rogers fan.
He was nasty.
Um, I love them, and my family from North Carolina, so I got I knew them as a youngster,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and Arizona was probably my top school coming out of high school. I loved Arizona because I love Sean Elliott, and
Yeah, he
and
was
you know
nasty.
then Khalid Reeves was a New York guy, and I loved Khalid, going over playing at the Gauchos gym and all that stuff. So he
Mm-hmm.
and I had a chance to really connect. Um, and then so it was Wake Forest, Arizona, uh, um, Florida State, because I mean Florida State, just Florida. I mean in Florida, so those were like my top schools, and then
Mm-hmm.
St. John's. Those are my top five schools that I visited throughout my career. Of high school, my visits for to campuses, and I actually loved all of the schools, but St. John's, just playing at Madison Square Garden, growing up a Knicks fan.
Mm.
Um, just that was a dream come true. Because you got to think I'd only played basketball 3 years at this point,
Mm. Mm. I
and I
know
was on, and I was going into college at 17 years old.
that.
So like I was a really young freshman in college. I didn't turn 18 until November, so I played like 3 games, 4 games before I even turned 18 years old.
Now you get at St. John's. Was that was right when Lou had retired, or
Yeah,
how did that transpire?
yeah. So the reason St. John's became such a big, like place for me was um, George Felton used to be coach at South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and he had just got let go. And I really liked him, but I just didn't like South Carolina.
Mm.
And when he got the St. John's job, he continued to recruit me as an assistant coach. He went from, and he was the one that really got St. John's in for me, because I really liked George Felton as a coach. He was really honest with me, and we're still friends till today. Like I still
Mm.
see him as a scout. He's a scout in the NBA, and I still see him at OTE and places when I'm out watching games and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how close we were. So he was probably, even though I liked St. John's, he was the one that got them over the threshold for me to actually commit to St. John's and want to go there, because I took 2 visits to Arizona, and I really wanted to go to Arizona, but I think Coach Hurley, because I was so young, he didn't really trust that I, being so young, that it was a good choice for me.
Yeah, I know. But Tucson, beautiful weather, and then to
Oh
come to
man.
Queens. Oh my
Oh, the
God!
sundresses. Hey Mike, the sundresses.
I know. I've been to Arizona a couple times. I love it out there, bro. That was
Man, it, it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was it was everything you could imagine it to be. The arena that they played in. I mean, they were
Mm-hmm.
top five, seven team in the country. Damon
Mm-hmm.
Stoudemire, Miles Simon. I mean, it was. I
Ooh.
mean, they had a really good team,
And
man.
you was light skinned like them. You would have fit right
And
in, huh? You would have fit right in, huh? You look like one of them Pac-10 dudes.
yeah, you ain't lied one bit, man.
All right, so now you at St. John's, right? And you got you having 7 points as a frosh, 8 points as 8 points as a sophomore. How was the adjustment to college basketball coming from playing in high school?
Man, you see that picture, that sophomore year right there, man, when we transitioned to the Red Storm, right? Man,
Mm-hmm.
I came out of high school 6'8", 195. And I was a center. So you can
Mm.
imagine how physically, and I'm in the Big East, the real Big East, not this Big
Mm-hmm.
East that they got today. This was the Eric Mobley's, the Danielle Marshalls,
Mm-hmm.
this was the real Big East back in the day, where it was grueling, it was physical, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a tough kid, so being in 195, it was like, all right, I didn't realize what I got myself into. but but the one thing that I learned in my career was efficiency, man. So like even as a freshman, I averaged 7 points a game, but I only played about 12 minutes. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And and then as a sophomore, I probably played 14 minutes, and I
Mm.
averaged 8 points a game. And my biggest gripe was I used to always bring the 36, to Coach Mahoney, and I would say, listen, man, per 36, I'm the best player you got. Like, why am I not
Mm.
starting? Why am I not, and he never had answers for me. And that's the
Mm.
one thing that Coach Hurley never left me with. And that was really, Brian Crawford, Coach Hurley, Rich Leary, like all the coaches that I played for in high school, I never left them with questions. It was all
Mm.
they were always answered either during practice or some sort of individual workout, whatever it might have been. And I left practice all the time. I left games be baffled as to why I wasn't able to play, especially with the way that I played. And he never had answers. So that was my reason for transferring. It was like if you can't answer my questions, there's no reason for me to play for you.
And I got another question. Like, how did it feel? You probably lost more games the first month than you lost in your whole St. Anthony career. No, I'm being serious. Like, how did it feel to go from like was the St. Anthony practices harder than St. John's practices?
Yes. They weren't as physical because guys were bigger and stronger, but when
Mm-hmm.
it came to like the understanding of the game, I learned more, and I felt like I wasn't learning anything. I felt like I
Mm.
had to figure it out on my own at a St. John's practice versus being at a St. Anthony's practice where I was being taught how to position. I was being taught, how to move and how to space and how to do things. I didn't feel like I learned anything. I felt like I lost 2 years playing at St. John's. I learned more from my teammates who I'm still really close to than I did from the head coach. And
Where's
so that was the
Mahoney?
biggest thing.
My bad. I'm sorry. Where's Mahoney originally from? Because
He a New York guy. He's a New York guy.
so nothing clicked in his head was like, not only was you talented enough to get more minutes, but I'm gonna want some more kids from St. Anthony's. So if I don't do this right, like they right there. Like that never clicked in his mind.
I don't think it did. It's hard moving from that second seat to the first seat. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm,
real hard, we're gonna
mm,
talk about that too from experience. You know what I mean? It's not an
mm,
easy thing, and I think that he didn't know what he had. I mean, I'd only played basketball for 5 years at that time. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I was
yeah,
still developing,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and but I wasn't being taught what I was supposed to be. And
Okay.
so when I decided to leave, I just felt like I didn't think I was trying to be a pro or nothing like that. I was just trying to be the best. I was always taught to be the best version of yourself. And I felt like I wasn't the best version of myself. I felt like they put too much weight on me too fast. I felt like I wasn't being taught to play my position. I wasn't, which was really a power forward position. I was playing backup
Mm-hmm.
center. And I'm
Mm,
like, I eventually wanted to be a small forward. You know what I mean? Like,
mm.
but I was
Development,
working,
development,
right? And I
development.
wasn't getting any of that. I was just being used with what I already had, not what I wasn't being taught anything more, anything less.
Who was the Duke plug, bro?
Bobby Hurley.
I figured that. I figured that. Now, how did that come about?
No, Bobby Hurley Jr. I'm saying
Yeah,
Bobby Hurley
I
Jr.
figured. I
was the
figured it was
plug.
one of them, and I knew he had just played for them. How did that come about?
So we used to go down to Belmar. So I'm at
Mm-hmm.
St. John's, and I would always come home and work out with with the high school team because it was better to play with like at the high school team than it was to be playing for at the time at St. John's. And
Mm-hmm.
so we used to play for the Allenhurst Barbers down in Belmar.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Doherty, who was my mentor, you guys know Brian Doherty, that was my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So he put our team together. And so Bobby started to see me play, and I started working with Bobby that summer a lot. And he and I were like a 1-2 combination. I mean, we had a great team. I mean, we had Rick Mahorn, we had Bobby, Terry, Rod. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we had a great team. But the league itself was amazing. Everybody played in it. Speedy Williams, you know, Anthony Mason. I mean, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was some great talent in that league. Um, and so as I started to develop, man, I was averaging probably 35 a game in that league.
Mm.
And Bobby would come and he would be averaging probably 15 assists because he would just keep feeding me, feeding me, feeding me. And I told Coach Hurley I wanted to transfer that summer. And he mentioned it to Bobby, and Bobby reached out to Coach K because that was the year he sat out when he had the injury. Um, And so at the end of my last 10 games at St. John's, my goal was to make sure that I had a resume that was second to none. And so the last 10 games of the season, I averaged probably like 11 and a half points a game in about 18 minutes.
Mm.
And I took those last 10 games and I sent them out to, only two schools I even considered was Duke and Arizona when I was transferring. And so it was really just a fight between those two. I mean, I talked to a lot of people, but those were really the only two schools I considered. And so Bobby was the one that told Coach K that I was interested in leaving and that I would be a great fit. And it was fortunate enough that Joey Beard, who was the number two player in our class, coming out of high school, Duke wasn't the best fit for him, and he ended up transferring out to BU, and they opened up a scholarship for me.
Now you get down to Duke. What's your expectations and what's your first impressions once you arrived at in Durham?
Well, I understood the Duke culture because our culture at St. Anthony's was very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And really talking to Bobby about what the expectation was, it helped me. It helped set up my what I should be looking forward to. But the
Mm-hmm.
best thing was when I got there on my visit. This was after the tournament. They had just, everybody could have went home, and Trajan Langdon, Ricky Price, Jeff Capel, everybody, the whole team, even the walk-ons stayed and hosted me on my visit. This was
Mm.
during spring break, and all we did was play ball, work out, lift. We did all the things, and I was like, man, is this the dedication that I'm used to seeing with a group? And when I saw that, I felt like I was at home because it reminded me of everything that I started off with at St. Anthony's. And they had Trajan Langdon, they had Jeff, they had Ricky Price, they had a lot of good young players that I could go with. But the one thing they didn't have was a guy that was like me.
Mm.
Grant Hill had just graduated. Tony Lang just graduated. Those guys were me, but they were gone now. So understanding the game the way I understand it, I understood that that stretch four position was Coach K's favorite position, and I had a chance to step in and help bring Duke back to the promised land that Duke, the success that they've always had.
Tell me about your first game at Cameron Indoor Stadium and take me there.
So the first, I would say the first game was the year I sat out was the blue white game. I'm gonna just, I'll start there because I had 25 points, but I couldn't play in no game that year. And everybody was looking at me like this dude can't play. Like how he out here killing and he can't even get in the game. So it was really amazing to be able to like that was the one chance I had to show what Roshown Mcleod was going to be to
Mm-hmm.
to the fan base. And I wanted to go out and make sure that they understood what they had because most of the time people were saying, well, if you didn't even play at St. John's, how are you going to play at Duke?
Mm.
But they didn't understand where I was from. I'm from Jersey City.
Jersey, baby.
You know what I'm
Indeed.
saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna prove. I'm gonna prove myself. And on top of that, that summer going into transferring to Duke, I had a kid. So 2 months
Mm.
before I got to Duke, I became a father, and so that
Mm.
was more motivation for me to be great in a great situation. So with that being said, I was able to parlay that into making sure that it was a great opportunity and that I was prepared. And on top of that, I had some great assistant coaches in Johnny Dawkins, the Tommy Amaker, Dave Henderson, Quinn Snyder. Like working with these guys before and after practice, it was just, I mean, they were pros. Like these guys played in the pros, and they all played at Duke, so that they all had great careers at Duke. So I was able to learn the Duke culture, on the job training, and learn from guys that played at a high level in the league. So it really helped advance my career really fast. And I'll say that that summer, that year that I set out was probably the biggest jump in my basketball skill set
Mm.
that I had. I went from playing center to really being able to do whatever I wanted to. My handle got better. My 3 point shot, I developed a 3 point shot. I could always shoot, but I just didn't
And
have the confidence.
who was responsible on developing those aspects?
Johnny Dawkins and Dave Henderson, I would say, and Quinn Snyder. They like I was sit because I was that hybrid forward. I worked with the bigs and the guards all the time. So
Mm,
I spent half my time working on the stuff that I did with the big men with Dave Henderson, where I learned how to leverage and use my speed and quickness. And then when I was in the lab all the time with Johnny Dawkins and Quinn Snyder, who are geniuses when it comes to player development.
take me through a typical game day routine at Duke when Coach K was there and you played. Like, what did y'all do in the morning all the way till it was time to tip off?
So we would wake up. Well, the day before we had a practice that was geared towards like what we were going to do from a strategy standpoint. We watched a lot of film. We made sure we ate properly. That was huge. Like we did a lot of things that people do today that they weren't really thinking about back then.
Mm,
Um, and so we would wake up in the morning. We would have our breakfast at either the Dave Thomas Center or a hotel because they didn't have all these new buildings and facilities they got now. So we would eat breakfast as a unit to come together, and then we would have our shoot around 11:30, and then we would walk through and get shots up and go over the strategy once again, watch some film. Then afterwards, we would go back. I would leave there after I would get some shots up. Then I would go back home. I would eat. I would eat before I went to sleep, like a snack or something like that. Then I took my little power nap. I took like a 45-minute power nap. Then I did a lot of stretching. So I would get with our strength and conditioning guy, Will, his first year. Now he's still at Duke as the strength and conditioning coach today. But him and Sonny Falcone, I would go and get like a 45-minute stretch before,
mm-hmm,
like when I woke up. And then we would have our pregame meal 3.5 hours before. And then once we finished the pregame meal, I would go back, take another power nap. I would get to the gym about 2 hours before the game. And then I would get in there. I would get all my treatment, make sure that I didn't have any nicks or anything like that. Then I will also go through another stretch routine with Will Stevens or Sonny Falcone, who was
mm-hmm,
the head guy at the time. And they really taught me the value of stretching. So I would stretch for at least 3 hours that day to prepare
mm-hmm.
for the game. And it really helped my mobility. It helped me get my second wind faster. It helped my athleticism. And so that was kind of the way that the day went. And so I would go as hard as I could in my pregame workout, getting my shots up, like game situations, the shots that I was gonna take. Those the ones I practiced over and over for about 35, 40 minutes with Quinn or Dave or whoever was out there for me that time. And then I would come in and take a shower. And then I would get ready for the game, put my uniform on, and then that was the mental part of the game, probably the 45 minutes leading up to tip off. I did all the physical work prior, and then the 45 minutes up to tip off was probably the mental aspect where I played the game in my head over and over after watching the film, what my opponent was going to do, how we was going to stop him, how we if we were going to switch, if we were going to do whatever the plays that we were designed to run, because we didn't run the same plays every game. We really
Mm.
played fluid basketball. And so I would just play the game in my head before the game started so that I make sure that the efficiency that I prided myself in was always going to be available.
The attention to detail and the treatment that you got in terms of preparation and on and off the court, how did that compare to St. John's?
It didn't compare. We watched the games, but at Duke we watched film. That's two different things. Like we watched the
Mm,
games at St. John's to watch but at Duke we watch film. We watch tendencies. We built strategies around. I remember playing against Tim Duncan my junior year. and he had 40 and 20. but the but the goal was don't let the other guys beat you.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So we had a strategy because it was just certain things that we had no control of. Nobody's gonna stop Tim Duncan.
Mm.
So we're not.
Mm.
That's not the goal. The goal is don't let other people beat us. And so we had like a 80 something game streak, and they ended up beating us in Cameron my junior year, and come bringing that streak to a halt. And coach was so pissed when we went to play them at Wake. We smacked them because we were more
Mm.
prepared, and they broke our home game streak against ACC ACC opponents at the time. It was like some long streak that we had going on, and he, I mean, we were killing him, and he just didn't want to take the foot off the brake because he was so pissed that they beat us in Cameron.
What's your best game moments you had, and your greatest memories playing to do?
um, the one of my best games, I would probably say is at Florida State. And in Carolina in Cameron my senior year.
Mm.
Man, so like Florida State was a coming out party for me, I would say, because although I was probably the second leading scorer and rebounder on the team behind Elton Brand,
Mm-hmm.
um, leading up to that, I probably, I wasn't the best version of myself, even though we were the number one team in the country. So
Mm.
mentally, it was conflicting because I didn't know how to complain. I didn't know how to complain and take what what I needed to be a pro at the time. Even though I was good enough to be a pro, I don't know if I was mentally a pro yet. And this is my
Mm.
senior year at Duke. But that break, I would say, like, going we was going into a break, and Elton and I was flying home, and I had missed the going into my senior year. I had missed the preseason because I had a stress fracture over the summer playing down in Belmar, so I
Mm-hmm.
missed preseason. Um, and I wasn't in great shape, even though I was still producing. Um, and so Elton said something to me that was, as a freshman, that I'll never forget. He was like, "Bro, if you got in shape, you'd be the best player we got."
Mm.
And I was like, I thought coach was picking on me. You know what I'm saying? And it was a aha moment for me, because when I got home, the first thing I did was go to Lincoln Park with my father and my little brother, and we ran and we did miles, and then I practiced with St. Anthony's because they started hooping. We it was like around Thanksgiving, so the day after, I did the 2 days with that team, and they had Roshown Mcleod, Anthony Perry,
Mm.
Ajamal Baz. They was number one in the country, so their practices were great. So myself, Billy Lovett, and I think Carl, and like those guys were, we all came back, and we were able to practice with the team, and I left and went back to Duke in better shape than I came home
Mm.
with. And and this is how God works sometimes. I think when you prepare yourself for the right opportunities, instead of me complaining, I took Elton's criticism because it came from a friend, and I did something about it. And the day we came back, he broke his foot in the first practice.
I remember that.
And when he broke his foot, it was kind of like, wow, like what's Duke gonna do without Elton Brand? And I'm thinking to myself, they got me.
Mm.
They got me.
Mm.
So the first game we played was Florida State, and I went from averaging about maybe like 12, 13 points a game. I averaged from that point to the end of the year, I probably averaged 23 and a half points a game or so. I mean,
Mm.
that game I had like 27 and 14 or 27 and 13. And it was my coming out party. Bill Raftery did the game, and he was, I mean, being a Jersey guy, he was making sure I got all the publicity I needed. And from that point forward, I went from not being on anybody's radar for first team All ACC to all first team ACC player and All American.
Mm. Talk about this, brother. The Duke Carolina rivalry.
Yeah, I say
Take
I didn't
me
even go to
into
the
that, bro.
story, but
Like,
I
like
knew it was
where's
coming.
where's what is this about? How serious it is? What's how do y'all prepare? Like take me inside of it, man.
So to me, it's probably one of the top two, three rivals in all of sports, in my opinion. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And having, I didn't understand it till I actually got to play in it. I mean, I got it, and I enjoyed watching it as an entertainment perspective. But when I got to play in it for the first time, you get the gist of it. Leading up to this game, man, the media would, we getting ready to play Georgia Tech, NC State, and Clemson, and the media will be like, next week you're playing Carolina. It's like, but we playing Clemson today. Like, and so you had to be psychologically prepared to like leave that where it is until it shows up on your doorstep. So coach and our team and our staff did an excellent job preparing us for the media to be able to focus on the game at hand, whether it was Georgia Tech, Clemson, NC State, whoever it was, and not let the media pull us into what the rivalry of Duke and Carolina was
mm,
before the game happened. Um,
mm.
and the crazy thing about it is, no matter who's on that team, it's going to be a great game.
I
And
know. It
my
always
senior
come
year,
down to the
man,
buzzer. It always come down to the end. I don't care if one of y'all like number one and the other one not ranked. It still be a dog fight, man.
all the marbles was my senior year. So like we were number one in the country. They was number two in the country. Uh, this is for the ACC outright champion, the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament. Like all the marbles everything's on the line. My senior day, so it's the last game I'm playing in Canton.
Mm.
And it's funny because like I told you, I was a dad going into Duke. My son is two now, and I was it was a great moment for me because I was able to stand in the middle of the court in my last game with him, and that was pretty sweet.
Oh, that's
Um,
dope. That's dope.
and so like it was a full circle moment for me, being a dad and seeing what I was able to accomplish to put myself in a position to be a better father. And I'll tell you what, man, they jumped out on us by 16 points in the first half, probably all the way up through three-quarters of the game. And in the last 10 minutes of the game, man, we came roaring back. And, like, I mean, they had Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, Shamon Williams,
Ooh.
Brendan Haywood, Maktar Njai, Ed Cota. I mean, they were loaded, man, and we ended up coming back, and I hit a game winner for us to win on senior day, and it was a great one. You talk about a great game. It was a great game for me. I finished the game with like 25, 24, 25 points, hit the game winner, and we were able to go on and do some great things in the tournament after that.
Did you was that the game where you did your stare?
Oh yeah, for sure. That was the one they always show when they show the rivalry game when I'm at and they show me and Shane Battier in the picture. That was where the stare that the face that Dick Vitale used to be like, oh look at the determination, baby. Like he said
That was the face, man.
he would go bananas, man. And people used to, like I didn't even realize I was doing it. Really that was a culmination of everything we talked about. Me growing up in Jersey City, me proving myself, me being a father. People thinking that I wasn't good enough to play because I didn't perform at a high level at St. John's. That was like that face was just everything balled up, and it felt when I got into that mode, it felt like the world was moving slow. That how
Mm.
we talk about being in the zone. That was you knew I was in the zone when you saw that face. And a lot of people, it's funny. I used to go into restaurants or stores, and they'd be like, "McLeod, do that face," and I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And they would give me the face back
that's
at me.
what that's what I definitely was looking for that picture with the face, man. I was definitely looking for that Drake with the face. I was like, yo, he had that face, man. That was the thing, man.
That yeah,
Like,
that was it. That was just me being in the zone, Mike. That was me being in the zone, brother.
indeed, man. So let's talk about in all the Duke thing was Give us that experience of playing for Coach K, man. Did it live up to what you thought it was gonna be? Did it exceed expectations? Like, how was it?
I'll say this, man. Like two of the most like I had some great coaches that I played for, man. Brian Crawford, Rich Leary, Coach Hurley, uh, you know, then Coach K, Lenny Wilkins, Larry Brown. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to play for some Hall of Fame level coaches, man. And Coach K, what he taught me during that moment of me being at Duke, that 2.5, that 3 years, he used basketball to teach me how to be a better father. He used basketball to teach me how to be a better son. He used basketball to teach me how to be a better person, man. And
Mm,
every, like a lot of my Brian Crawford, like I said, a lot of guys use basketball to teach me to be a better man. And Coach K didn't fall short of that at all, man. He really taught me how to take my experiences on the court and apply them to the real world. And one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was, coming from Jersey City, I always wanted to make sure when I made it that my family was taken care of.
mm-hmm,
And one day I was, I was a father, I was going through a lot, and he sat me down and he said, "Listen, man, sometimes you got to go to the gas station and get refilled yourself." He gave me
mm,
an analogy. He was like, "You're the gas station to a lot of people, and they pull up and they get filled up." He was like, "How do you refill your tank when you need it?"
mm,
He was like, "So until you figure that," he was like, "until you figure that out, you won't be able to prolong the success that you want that you've had." And he helped me figure that out, and it helped me start to say no to people.
mm,
Like when because I wanted to see all my people reflect what I was able to do, but
mm-hmm,
not everybody was willing to put in the work, and I would end up doing it for them a lot of times.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
he taught me how to say no and not do it in a way that was disrespectful or where I lost relationships.
mm. That's deep, man. That's deep. I suffer from that too. And I wasn't nowhere near the success you had, but the success I had with Basketball Spotlight, I suffer from that, having been a codependent. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, not want people to be mad at me, not wanting people not to be my friend. You know what I mean? And this and that, like not saying no. You know what I mean? And then the one time you gotta say no, all them other times you said yes don't even matter no more.
Even matter. Yep, that's the truth.
You know what I mean? Like, you the worst person in the world. Forget the 99 times you said yes. There's one
And and
time you
and
said no.
and what I learned is, who cares?
Yep. Yep. At the end of the day. At the end of the day.
But that's maturity. You know what I mean? When you mature enough that you know what you're doing is the right thing to do, who cares how you feel? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because one of the things that I developed in my life with people who are like that was, you'll need me before I need you.
mm. I hear
So
that.
if
I
you
hear
want
that.
to walk away, that's cool. My life's still gonna be great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're gonna need me before I need you.
I
And
feel
I
you on
didn't
that.
have to say it, but it was just, it was something that a presence that I developed, where if you're gonna be mad at me, be mad. That's cool. But you're gonna need me
Mm-hmm.
before I need you. Like I said, I didn't want to be disrespectful and say that to people, but that was the
Mm-hmm.
mentality that I developed to make sure that I just stood back and let them go through what they needed to go through, and then they end up coming back, and we ended up being having a stronger relationship anyway.
Indeed, indeed. So now your college career over, you get drafted first round 20th pick by the Atlanta Hawks. Did you ever think in your wildest dreams when you first picked up that basketball, or when you quit that team in 10th grade, that you'll be in the NBA draft first round, bro?
Bro, I'll tell you what, man. It seemed like I was. It was a dream come true, because it was like I didn't even really love basketball like that, man. It was like I played because my
Uh,
friends played. I
Uh-huh.
played because I wanted to go to college for free. Like no,
Mhm.
I never really thought like somebody would pay me to play basketball. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Until my senior year. I would probably
Mhm.
say my senior year at Duke was when I realized that when I had that coming out party at Florida State, where I realized somebody would pay me to do this. And
Mhm.
and in doing that, it made me go harder because I wanted to make sure that I earned it. You know what I'm saying? That I'm a like accountability for me is huge in my life. I want to make sure that if I want to hold other people accountable, I got to hold myself accountable to a certain standard. And if it's tough, and you'll become a hypocrite if you're not holding yourself to a standard, but you forcing
Mhm.
people to hold themselves to a standard that you yourself don't even try to reach. So
Mhm.
going through that process of being drafted, like I remember being downtown Jersey City,
Mm.
and having my teammates, my high school teammates there, my high school coaches
Mm.
there, the whole city. I mean, we were all, I mean, it was about maybe 80 people in a restaurant, and we were all celebrating. And I kind that whole process was weird because I kind of knew where I wanted to play. I wanted to play for the Hawks. I knew I wanted to play for the Hawks. And the reason
Mhm.
I said that was because I loved Atlanta, first of all. And then, I mean, if you've been to Atlanta back then, you get it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But they had a veteran team when Steve Smith and
Mhm.
Mutombo, and like they just had a veteran team, and they were really good the year before with Christian Leitner, and they started off the season like 27-3 or something like that. But they didn't have any young guys, and I felt like me coming in as a rookie, I could learn from a lot of those guys to be able to establish myself and learn to be a professional. And I was right
Mhm.
because I got to play with Steve Smith and Mutombo, and they taught me how to be a professional. And so I was able to you know understand what it took from a day-to-day basis, transitioning the great resources we had at Duke.
Mhm.
It wasn't the same in the league. In the league, they pay you to play
Mm.
ball, right? So quick story, I remember we playing the game, and Steve's on the mid post, and I'm in the corner, and they double team him. I cut back door. He kind of pulls the ball out a little bit, and he's pushing, like waving me out, like get out, get out. And I'm like, all right, I go back to the corner. I had a dunk, but okay, you could, you could, just I get back to the corner. So he do the little Smitty move on the baseline, scores. They call timeout, and we walking back to the bench, and he goes, young fella. They pay me to shoot. They pay you to stand in the corner. If I pass it to you, then you shoot. All right, cool. Like I get it. So, but you
Mm.
got to learn your role. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And I would say this: the next 4 games we played, I did exactly what he said, and he found me in the corner, and I went on a 4 or 5 game streak where I averaged about 16 points. Than that as a rookie, because all I did was listen, and I listened to my vets, and they put me in a position to have success. And I thank them for that. You know what I'm saying? But that whole rookie year experience, man, was tremendous, man. Being able to play against the Patrick Ewings, the guy who I grew up, and the Hakeem Olajuwon, the guys who I grew up idolizing,
Mhm.
Scottie Pippen, who was ended up becoming one of my favorite players. It was a dream come true, man, to be able to be on the court and ask them. I remember like it was yesterday. Ask every game I played against, and I played small forward, so I had no nights off, man. I've got Grant Hill one night, then I got Lamar Odom, then I got Scottie Pippen, then I got Cedric Ceballos, then I
Mm.
got Glenn Wrights, then I like it wasn't no nights off at the small forward position back then. Glenn Robinson, Jamal Mashburn, Jimmy Jackson. Like every night there's a problem. And I remember
Mm.
asking these guys, like, "Hey, man, what? Give me something that I could take and help me become a better player in this league." And I respect all those Allen Houston. I respect all those guys giving me information so that I could become the better player, the best player I could possibly be.
Did you get hazed? And can you share any of those stories? Hey man, I'm asking it, man. I'm asking it.
So all right. So this my best story, I would say. So I'm the only well, actually I wasn't the only rookie. I was
Mm-hmm.
the only first round pick we had, but we also drafted Shamon Williams and Jeff Shepard in the second round. But they
Mm-hmm.
ended up not making it through the whole year. And I I remember coming
Mm-hmm.
showing up at practice, and being from Jersey, they was like, "Brooke, make sure the donuts is here." So I'm like, "All right." Being from Jersey, I show up the next morning at shoot around with Dunkin' Donuts. I'm from
Mm-hmm.
Jersey. That's what we eat. We eat Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
I didn't know nothing about Krispy Kreme. So I bring like 3, 4 boxes of Dunkin' Donuts assorted. And they like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "The donuts." And they like, "Man, if you don't get out there and get the Krispy Kreme." So I had to drive, I had to leave, shoot around, go back, get the Krispy Kreme. And when I came back, they fined me for being late. And
Yeah,
I was
man.
like,
So,
that's $100 a minute, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I spent
ah,
5 grand. I'm like, yo,
ah.
never did I forget to bring the Krispy Kremes again after that.
Mm. How did you adjust to the lifestyle of like that amount of money coming in, being able to budget it? You already shared some stuff about people wanting things of this or that nature, but how did you handle getting those first couple of checks with that amount of money, which you probably never seen in your life up to that point?
Oh, for sure, man. So I was in the lockout. So that was also
Mm.
another thing. So it was a pause on me getting my first check, and I remember trying to buy furniture at Rooms to Go, and they wouldn't even sell me no furniture because I had no credit card and no credit,
Wow.
nothing. I had to bring my contract in so that they could give me a give me a
Mhm.
loan. But but I'll say this, man, like I had some, having Coach K and people around me, they helped me with my financial literacy.
Mm.
One of the first things I purchased was whole life insurance. So when I got injured, I was able to get a check, because I got injured.
Mm.
Nobody ever thinks they're gonna get injured. But that was one of the first things I purchased was whole life insurance and insurance on my body. So life insurance, I mean, it's about 3 million. I think it was $3.5 million that I was able to get when I got, and it was tax free money. So
Mm.
I would have never imagined getting injured. It was the first major injury I had in my whole career, and it ended my
Mm.
career. So,
And what did you
um,
injure?
I had a nerve injury.
Mm.
It's called perineal entrapment. I pinched my nerve in my knee. And if I could explain
Mm.
it, the best way to explain it is imagine sitting on the toilet a little longer than you expected because you was looking at your phone and your leg go numb. That's what
Oh.
my leg felt like all the time. And
Oh.
I tried to play through that. So imagine trying to play through that.
Mm.
And if I was playing today, I might have been able to come back because they got this thing called what they call it, where they sit out all the time.
Load
Load
management.
management. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like back when we was playing, when I was man, they would we need you. Play. What
Hmm.
you got for
Hmm.
us? And you had to play
Hmm.
through those nicks, and you had to play through injury, play through things because you wanted to win. And it was really competitive. Um, so it was just a different time, and I should have got a second opinion. I think if I would have played, if I would have sat down when I realized how bad it was, instead of trying to make everybody happy around me, I think I probably could have came back. But I played about 50 games on it, and it made it worse, and that's what prolonged. I didn't get the feeling back in my leg to my 2003 was my last year, and I don't think I got the feeling back in my leg till probably 2012.
Mm. So let's get on before you got to that time. Some of the happier moments. Let's talk about you get traded from Atlanta to Philadelphia. How did you find out about the trade, and how was you feeling about it?
Man, I was rehabbing my leg. I was in the
Mm.
training room, and I was I was doing some physical therapy, some PT, um, and at this time I didn't even really know what the problem was. Like it was just I had this injury that nobody could really give me a diagnosis on, and so I show up at the training facility, and I read the new I pick up the newspaper, and me and Dikembe Mutombo was traded to the Sixers. And in my mind, I was thinking,
Mm.
wait a minute, this might not be so bad because they pretty good.
So you get up to Philly. How was it once you got into Philadelphia, and how quickly did you adapt?
So I first of all, I loved it. I think it was a great situation for me. The unfortunate part was my injury didn't allow me to take advantage of it. Right.
Mm.
I was a third scorer, behind I would have been behind AI and Aaron McKee. And
Mm.
Dikembe, he scored some points, but he wasn't necessarily a scorer. Not saying we would have beat the Lakers, but I would have probably contributed an additional 12 to 14 points again. At that
Mm.
time, 12, 14 points that could have gave us a chance. And I didn't get a chance to take advantage of it. But the good thing about playing in Philly was they doctors actually was able to diagnose what it was that happened to me, and I was able to have the proper surgery, to get better. But like I said, I still didn't get the feeling back in my leg until about 2012. Um, but I tried to play through it in Philly. I played in one game, and just it was probably you you it's not right when you finish a game and you win and you didn't care,
Mm.
because I was in so much pain that I didn't even care. It was like winning and losing didn't matter anymore. I was just trying to like manage this pain and this loss of feeling in my leg from the knee down, daily, and that it didn't give me any satisfaction. The competition of it.
What about the run that y'all made? Just being a part of that team, making that run, that historic run through the playoffs, and eventually losing to the Lakers, but the excitement and all the hoopla y'all brought to Philadelphia during that time. How was it just being a part of that crew?
Oh, it was great, man. The guys were great. We had a great group of guys, and Jermaine Jones and Rodney Buford, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously AI and Tyrone Hill and Aaron McKee, and I mean Matt Geiger. I mean Todd McCall. I mean, it was a great team. Speedy Claxton, who was injured with me, so we got a chance to spend a lot of time together, getting to know each other. One of my bros today. Um, but just seeing Allen Iverson and the effort that team that was constructed to support what he was able to do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
from a talent perspective, it wasn't the most talented team, but it was probably one of the most well-oiled teams put together. It just fell
Mm-hmm.
short of the ultimate goal of winning the championship. I would compare it to, probably like the Detroit Pistons team that won the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
team was constructed in the right way, and they had the right. And it's just funny because Larry Brown was the coach of that team,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
which makes it even more hilarious. But he just was a great coach. He was a great X's and O's guy. He knew how to motivate you, and he also allowed you to be you. He didn't stand in your way. He gave guys chances, and guys. Jermaine Jones had a great run in the playoffs. Todd McCullough, when he came in, he gave some great
Yeah, I
minutes,
remember that.
but that starting five with Eric Snow, who's a great floor general. He had a lot of flaws in his game, but when it came to his IQ, that was second to none. Um, and Aaron McKee, who was the Warriors warrior. I mean, those guys just fought on a day-to-day basis. They fought through every possible obstacle, every talented player going up against the Vince Carters and the Ray Allens and the Glenn Robinsons. And I mean, we went through some really, really good teams that year,
Mm-hmm.
to make it to the finals.
What was the Iverson Larry Brown thing? You being in the practices, being in the games, being in the locker room. Was it overhyped by the media, or was it more
Oh,
going
for
on that
sure.
we didn't know about?
Nah, it was definitely. Listen, Larry Brown and Allen Iverson had a great relationship, man. They respected each other.
Mm,
They were from
mm,
two different backgrounds that respected each other's space. And
mm.
I'll say this, they made such a big deal out of Allen Iverson not practicing. What what 6 foot guy, 168 pounds, that played 44 minutes a game, 5 days, 4 or 5 days a week, why would he go out and beat himself up in practice? That makes no sense.
I know, I know. And now look at them. They not only don't they practice, they don't even play.
Right. Like it's insane. Like these they don't even practice no more.
I
So
know, I know.
it just but he was before his time, man. And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
watching that dude play, he was a freak of nature. He'd show up and 44. You could just put it on the board. That was the
Mm,
series against the Knicks where where Chris Childs kept saying, like, well, not the Knicks, the Raptors, and he was saying he got 40, but you won't get 42, and he got 44. I bet you won't get 40. Then he got 46. I mean, it was like, yo, shut up, dude. Like
mm,
you
mm,
just egging this dude, and he just keep get reaching new heights. So just
mm.
watching him on a day-to-day basis, what he brought, the fire he brought, just the leadership, and he led by example. He wasn't one of those guys who always was like, yo, you got to do this. It was like, yo, get on my back and just do your job, and we're gonna be all right. I got this. And he made it safe for you to be the player that you needed to be.
And closing with the Sixers, how did you maintain your sanity, seeing all of this going on, they making this run, and you knowing if you got in there just wanting to be a part of that on the floor, you definitely a part of it as being on the team. But being on the floor, how did you deal with that mentally?
Man, it was really hard, and I didn't even recognize it till later on. Like, uh, around that time, I lost my mom at the same time, like not too
Oh,
long
I'm getting
before
to
that.
that. I'm getting to that. I'm getting
Yeah.
to that.
So there was a
But go ahead.
lot
Go
of
ahead. Go ahead.
things that built up
Mhm.
that was just grief, that was just piling on,
Mm,
piling on, piling on, separating from my kids, my kid's mother at the
mm,
time, like, and I started having to see a sports psychiatrist.
mm,
And, Joel was amazing, you know what I'm saying? And he helped me put things in perspective, life. And although I ended up, being on the Celtics team, I didn't get a chance to play a game that year because I couldn't feel my leg. But the hopes was that I could rehab and get better and come and be able to contribute, but it didn't happen. And so I had to, bring my career to a crashing halt. But Joel Fish was the sports psychologist that really helped me put life into perspective, because at that point I had so much success playing ball that I didn't, they became a part of my life, and I lost so many other things, like I said, my mother, my relationship with my kid's mother. Like, I lost some very important things in my life, and I was able to really focus on how to grieve and get through those things. But I also had to learn how to grieve to the end of a career that didn't happen the way that I
mm.
wanted. And so I went through about 10 years of depression as a
Mm.
result of it. And in that time, life's still lifing. And
You
so,
ain't
I still got to be a dad. I still got to be a brother. I still got to be, I got married probably a year and a half later,
mm-hmm.
to my wife, who, we've been married for 23 years now.
Oh, praises.
And she helped me through the depression. She helped me understand how to grieve. So going through 10 years of depression, man, it was, and I was going through a point where I'm coaching and I'm doing all of these things and I'm trying to help people. And I didn't realize how much I needed to help myself. And,
Brother, I went
and I
through the
could go
yeah.
ahead.
I went through the same thing, man. 10 years, 6 years. I found my wife murdered in 2009. I was the suspect during all that time when I was coming up there and all like that. I had that over
Mhm.
my head. I was the suspect. It took 6 years for them to figure out what happened, and another 4 years for us to take the people to trial. So 10 years of my life, I went through that, bro. So I
Yeah,
understand alcoholism. All while I was doing basketball spotlight, I was a functioning alcoholic, man. Like
yeah,
I like
and you know, and you smile, and you still smile because you want people
yeah.
to you want people to realize that you still the same person that they always know, even though you dying inside a little bit every day.
Talk it, brother.
And
Talk it,
and
brother.
and the one of the things that helped me uh was, you know, like, because I remember taking on coaching jobs, you know, at
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Fairfield, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't mentally or physically help. You know, I couldn't. I really couldn't do the job. You know, because I wasn't
Mm.
mentally prepared. But I still tried it, and I would do it for. I would stay at this job for a year, 2 years, leave that
I remember
job. Like
that.
I just jumping
I
around
remember
from
that.
place to place, and it wasn't because I wasn't good at it. It wasn't because it was because I was never. I was never, what's the word? I was never satisfied with putting in the work and developing like I did in the beginning. Like I always
Mm.
felt, because of the sadness and like everything was coming to a halt. I got to do it now. I got to do it now. And it built, you know, a lot of anxiety, a lot of. I mean, it was just
Mm-hmm.
it made me into a different person where I couldn't enjoy success like I used to, where that was just what I did. Like success was just who I was. I didn't
Mm.
get overhyped because I put the work in. But now it's like I lost my career so abruptly. I didn't want the rug to be pulled out from under me and anything else. So I always was looking for
Woo.
that quick high of success right now. And then if I didn't get it, I got to change to something else. And
Mm.
I didn't even realize I was doing it. And
You wanted that dopamine. You wanted that
oh
dopamine
man,
rush.
and
Yeah.
I missed the roar of the crowd when you hit a big shot. I mean, it was just things that
Mm.
I was just so used to having that I just didn't have anymore, and I didn't know how to turn it. I didn't know how to turn it inward and recreate something else to give me the passion and the, you know, and the you know, the the passion. I'm just going to use that word, the passion to lose myself in the work that I'm doing. And the thing that turned it around for me was probably, like I said, after about 10 years, I started coaching high school. And I started giving my time away to kids who needed it. And it reminded me of the what Coach Hurley, Coach, you know, Eddie Rich, Rich Leary, Brian Crawford. Brian Crawford came back into my life as an assistant coach at St. Benedict's with me. You know, like I was able to get myself around the people that helped me become the version of Roshown Mcleod that was the best version. And then I was able to, they reminded me of who I am and the effect that I had on the you know, the world around me. So they, you know, my people, my wife, my coaches, my circle, Halim, you know, Kashara, like all the guys I play high school ball
Mhm.
with that I'm still friends with, they all started to remind me on the greatness. Lance Bethea, I remember having phone calls with Lance Bethea, and he like, man, you Rashawn McLeod, man. You don't, people look up to you, and I forgot that sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And when I started to remember that, my confidence started to come back. My preparation
Oh,
started to come
praises.
back. You know, my spiritual growth started to grow.
Mm.
um, you know, but also I was also able to take my success and share it with people again, as opposed to being so anxious about having it and wanting to keep it all to myself and all of this stuff. I was able to do that. And that's where the depression, I always try to tell people the key to depression is to not be isolated. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Is to not
Yep.
be isolated and to give the most valuable possession, your time, to the people who need it more than you. And
Mm-hmm.
that'll help get you on the path of recovery out of depression, because depression is a part of life. It never goes away, but what it will do is it's like a spike, and it'll hit you over the head, and you're like, what just
Mm-hmm.
happened? But
Mm-hmm.
you got to remember this, you know, like your life is great because you
Mm-hmm.
put the work in. You got a strong network. All you got to do is do what you do best, and share that with the people who need it a little bit more than you.
Indeed. I always say that the way out for me was, and I did a video about this maybe yesterday or the day before. Do we drive or walk past our ministries every day?
Yep.
If you got overcame, if the Most High help you overcome alcoholism, or are you riding past people that you know are alcoholics and you're not even saying nothing to them? That's why
Yep.
he got you through it, so you could go witness to them and let them know how he got you through it. But so many
Yep.
people just he gets them through situations, and then they look down on the people that's going through it. Instead of
Yep.
that's why he got you through it, so you could go help them. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And you being able to take that and to give it back to those young fellas who coming up in the world who need somebody like you, and you pouring into them. That's what it's all about. Because the thing out of depression that I always tell people is go find somebody to help, expecting nothing in return. And then that feeling that you get by when you keep doing that and doing that,
Priceless.
it's
It's priceless.
priceless. It's priceless. Which brings me to this. Tell me about the letter to your mom.
Ah, yeah, that was man.
How
So
did
the
that come
young lady
about?
who helped. Oh man. So this the young lady she reached out to me and she was just
Mm-hmm,
like, I help athletes tell a story. And
mm-hmm,
this is where my brain came from. After my
mm,
mom had me at 16. We were really close, man. Like that was my heart. And she drove me to be the best version of myself. That was the battery in my back, honestly.
mm,
I love my children, but my mom was the battery in my back. My children eventually became the battery in my back, but my mom was I wanted to see her have success because of what she was able to help get me through, right? Um,
mm-hmm,
so the young lady reached out to me and she was like, write the story and she was like, I want to publish it because this is what I do. I want to help athletes who've gone through depression and things like that uh
mm,
to tell their story. And my brand became, be able to tell your story better than everybody else. So that's my brand. Like if I had to give myself like to explain to you what my mission is to help teach people how to tell their story better than everybody else. Because when you look at it from our perspective where we grew up, we got a lot of kids that might have did a lot of wrong things and made some bad decisions or been in circumstances that they had to make a certain decision. If they were able to tell that story better, they could monetize that and they could
mm,
make a living doing it.
mm,
So my brand always became be able to tell your story better than everybody else, regardless of what you've been through.
mm,
And because somebody is out there with the same story you got, they just don't know how to get through it. And so
mm,
that letter was just me owning all the pain, the experiences, the highs, the lows, and not being able to tell her that right now at that moment. You know, I wanted to make sure that I put it in, it's like engraving in stone. I wanted to make sure that it was out in the world. The what my mom was able to instill in me, that I didn't forget it, and I lost it, and I was able to get it back.
yeah,
Because a lot of times people lose, they might lose something and then they die because they don't have it anymore. But you got to recreate, you got to be willing to put the work in again because you did it already. Now you got to be able to
mm,
recreate yourself. It might look a little different, but it's still success and it's still a part of your story. And so I'm
mm,
still telling my story today, in my transition that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. But and leaving sports behind and coming into the corporate world. You know what I'm saying? Like that's huge for me. I'm still telling my story to the day. And my brother, I remember my brother when I was coaching, he used to be like, "Man, your personality, your network, you should get into banking, man. Like, blah 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 blah." He's my financial planner now too, so that's helpful.
mm, mm.
Um,
What how did it help you therapeutically?
um, it helped me align. Like if like anything, if you got a timing belt that's off in your car, whatever, if it's not moving properly, the car's not going to run properly. So I would say that writing that letter aligned my spirit to be able to
Mm,
to make steps forward into recreating myself. You know what I'm saying? I went through a
mm,
life of I could get on the court and I played, and I put the work in and I was able to, but now I got to depend on my network a little bit more. I got to be a better leader. I got to lead people in order to have the success that I want today. I can't just go out and do it myself. I got to put a team of people around me together. My wife, my kids, my family, my network, my associates. I mean, my enemies. Everybody is a part of my team, and how you leverage them
mm.
is the thing that's going to determine your success. You know what I mean?
How did you find the strength to go from being a person depressed to being so vulnerable to tell the world that you was depressed?
I owned it. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like I owned it. Like you can't fix nothing if you don't recognize what the problem is.
mm.
You know what I'm saying? And if you don't own it, it's always going to be a problem.
Deep,
Like
deep,
I
deep.
went through depression, but I also had a hand in it.
Mm,
And a lot of people they always look at it and they say, "Oh, I'm depressed. It's everybody else that made me depressed." Like, no, it wasn't everybody else. Like there was some factors, people stealing money from me, blah blah blah, this losing, getting injured, things I didn't have any control. Yeah, there was some outside factors, but there was also solutions that I didn't know, being naive or didn't ask the right questions. Like that's it's called accountability. And when
mm,
I learned to take accountability for where I was at that moment, like this is where I'm at. This is my new starting point. Once I was able to accept my new starting point, then I knew how to work to get to the next to where I wanted to be. But until you own everything that happens to you, good, bad, and different, you can't move on, because it's always going to be somebody else's fault, and you always going to blame people when something bad happens. It's always somebody else's fault, when even though it ain't all your fault, you still had a part in it because it happened to you and you allowed it to happen, whether it was being naive or just not being fearless enough to stand up for yourself, whatever it might be. You know what I'm saying? So acceptance is probably the biggest thing that was the road back to being successful in my life.
Final question on the depression point. I know from my experience, um, it was a time where I got addicted to being depressed, and I look forward to it. Like it was like that soaking. It was like a comfort that came with knowing I'm about to go in this basement. I'm gonna start drinking. I'm gonna watch some drink champs at first. Then I'm gonna turn on some sad music, and then I'm gonna sink into this depression. But it was like in a sick way. I looked forward to it. I look forward to the crying. I look forward to the sadness. And until you win that point, most people might look at me like I'm crazy. But did you ever experience any of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I did. I experienced that. Mine was in video games. Like I always loved video
Mm,
games, but I remember I had this theater room in my house and 110-inch screen TV, decked out. It was like a movie theater, and I would just
mm-hmm,
go in there, close the door, order pizza,
mm-hmm,
Chinese food, and
mm-hmm,
I would stay in there all day, and I would be up till 4 or 5 in the morning playing video games and stuff like that. And I still love video games, but that was my way of escapism. Like I
mm-hmm,
I played NBA video games, so it was like
mm,
I would just like imagine myself being out there. I would create my own character, and then I'm like, man, this is what I would have did if. And in my mind, that's what I was playing, and that was a place I would always run to, and it was a comfort place. And like I remember doing exactly what you just explained. I did that. My wife was the one that helped me get out of it, because she would just come open the door and the light would hit me from the sunlight from just being up all night long.
mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate and unfortunate to where I had enough money where I didn't have to go to work at that time.
Yeah, I was
And
retired too. I was
right,
retired too. Yup.
so I didn't have nothing pushing me to have to, go make money or whatever. And and then what and I would probably say one of the biggest things that happened to me that helped me get through it was I had a really close friend of mine steal $1 million from me. And it restructured my life because I had my life set up where I lived off interest, and I still had a lot of money, but I didn't have enough money to live off to live the lifestyle I wanted to. So I had to go back to work. So I was able to take the money that I had, give it to my brother who became of age to be my financial planner. But I needed to go back to work because I couldn't bring in enough money off the interest after losing 1 million,
Mm,
from a close friend. And
mm.
but that was God's. Even though that happened to me and it was bad, it was the wake up call I needed to say I got to keep fighting for my family.
There you go, brother. There you go, brother. All
Like
right, let's.
I was
Yeah.
like I was in such
Let's
a
go.
comfort zone where I didn't have to fight to get out of
Mm,
depression. But when soon as
mm,
even though I lost a mill, it was like, man, but it was like, bam, now I need to get that money back because my daughter
mm,
got sickle cell anemia and she's
mm,
struggling on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? It changed the way I looked at things again. Now I went from, and I look at life like this, man. You got you got being youthful, where we naive. I look at it in three stages. I look at it as being hungry, you know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? And people who are hungry, they get out and they fight and they're competitive or whatever. And then you got the third part, which is where we all want to ascend to, which is, making sure that we can be like where we prepare well and we're wise. We experienced because we
mm-hmm,
used all that hunger and all of the experiences that we gained being hungry. Now we got a plan. You know what I'm saying? Like
mm-hmm,
when you hungry, ain't no plan when you hungry. You just get out there. When you naive, you don't have no clue. But when you experienced, you could put a plan together, and that's when real success is long. It can be in longevity. You know what I'm saying? You can't have success being hungry all the time.
yeah, I'm back, man. My other TV started coming on, and then I had to go turn it off. But that's the deep part. And when did you get to the point to where like it was okay for you to accept good things happening and you would expect good things to happen? Because that was tough for me. I always thought even if things was happening good right now, tomorrow that
It's
shoe gonna
something
drop.
wrong. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, you were exactly right. When it started happening, I would probably say when like I said, giving my time away, I started mentoring where my wife currently works at this youth facility where I would go in and I would teach these young men, and I created a course called Man Up. And what I
Mm,
did was is I created this course teaching young men how to hold themselves accountable, but I was also teaching reminding myself about that. And so
mm,
seeing these young men go through this program that's 6 to 9 months, leave, walk away, get a job, come back, speak, do all of this stuff, I was like, wow, it works. And so when I started seeing it work in the youth, I started reapplying it to myself. And then,
mm.
I probably, I took a job making $40,000. I went from making coaching, making, 250,000 a year. I'm making $40,000. I just took any job just so that I wanted to give my time away to the peak kid, to a youth, to youth
Wow.
that needed to hear my story. You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
they'll listen to
You
me
sound
because I
like
play in the league.
You sound like me, bro. I work now. I make the amount of money I make is what I was making in college.
Yeah. But
But I love
sometimes you
it
just got to
because of my
start from the
kids.
beginning, though.
Yeah, no, I don't care about the bread or nothing. It's the impact and just seeing those kids and knowing they love Mr. Mike. Like, yo, Mr. Mike, like coming to me, just allowing the Most High allowing me to pour into them. You get what I'm saying? Like
Oh, I do.
that's so. Yeah, it's nothing
When
better
I
than
walk down the street or I'm in a mall and I hear Coach Rowe, you know, like
yeah.
that's man, it's nothing like that. You know what I mean? Like
It did.
I remember coaching one of the kids. When I was coaching at a high school, and one of the kids from the program, he was on one of the construction crews that was doing some work on our school, and I was walking down the hall, and he was like, "Coach Rowe," and I turned around, and I'm like, "Oh snap!" I was like, "Man, what you got going on?" And he ended up having a kid, turned his life around. He got into construction, Hispanic kid, you know. I mean, just one of the worst kids I ever met in my life. But now, you know, he's like, you inspired me to take care of my son, you know, to work hard. And he was like, I see the fruits of the labor that I'm putting it in, and I'm able to instill that into my kid now. And it's just amazing that the lives that you touch.
It
Um,
did.
and there's no words for it, man. Like there's no word, and it's invaluable at the same time. There's no price tag that you could put on, you know, seeing that and the thing, you know, the feeling that you get and the rush that you get seeing a young man whose life you've altered to into a better path.
I gotta put you on the hot seat for this next question, bro. All right. You got one game and you trying to win this game. Who you going with? Coach K or Coach Hurley? You got one game.
Ah, I got one game to win.
And why? Who you going
Oh
with?
man, oh man. Now that yeah, you you talk about putting yourself in a pickle. Oh man, hey, listen. Let's put it this way. Let me get a little context. Is this a high school game or is it a college game or a pro game?
Um, I want you just got one game, bro. That's because no, you got one game and you got to call a coach to win this game. And it's one.
Oh man,
Let's say it's Game 7 NBA Finals, and you got
Game
to call
Seven
one of
NBA
them.
Finals. I'm gonna take Coach K in that one. I'm gonna take Coach
Why?
K in that.
Why?
I'm gonna say I say Coach K because like Coach Hurley, he's you know he's Jersey City born and bred. He's not understood by everybody. So a lot of players might not respond well that ain't grow up where he grew up. But Coach
Mm.
K, on the other hand, he was able to take a system that Bobby Knight, who was similar to Coach Hurley, and turn it into, you know, the all-time winningest coach, surpassing only Bobby Knight at the time. And he did that, you know, with kids from diverse backgrounds, different, you know, nationalities, from different communities, cultures, and he was able to bring all of that together and win as much as he did. So that's why I say that. So you know, Coach K was just really good at taking the first guy on the bench and the last guy on the bench who was a walk on and getting the most out of him uh, on a day to day basis.
Mm. I like that. I like that. I like that. Now let's talk about. I've been seeing your page and some of the things that you talk about, man, and it caught my attention about like looking at some of the topics you discuss and your introspection on things. What do you think right now is one of the biggest issues with the black family structure in America?
Um, when I look at so I grew up in this my mother, you know, my dad was around, but they weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how much that affected me until I became a father. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And I repeated
mm,
some of the same cycles that my father did, and then I had
mm,
to forgive myself and learn to forgive him. You know,
mm,
um, and now we got, you know, he's 70. He'd be about to be 75 years old, and we got a really strong relationship. You know,
mm,
I'm the oldest of five. It's me and my sister got the same mother, but my other three siblings got different mothers. But the one
Mm,
thing that I always found myself being the oldest, making sure when I came home in between my breaks from playing ball, that when even I'm talking about since they was 2 years old, 1 years old, I picked up all my siblings and we went to breakfast, we went to lunch, we went to dinner, and whatever time I was home, we spent that time together. You know what I
mm,
mean? And I made sure that we was tight. Um, and so when I became a father, I realized the things that my father did at 25, and how he evolved as, at 40 when he had my youngest brother and being married. It was just different. He was young, he was naive, he was learning. He was from South Carolina, and he moved to Jersey. Like, you could think about
mhm,
the cultural differences between living in South Carolina in his, 70s, his 60s and 70s, and then moving to Jersey, what the access you have to life.
mm,
Um, but I would say the biggest, like, I don't think we give enough grace in the black community for what we've been through to black men or women.
mm,
Um, I think that's, we talk about our spirituality. God gives us all grace because none of us are
mm,
perfect. I don't
mhm,
think we give each other enough grace because over the years we've been abused, through slavery, our ancestors.
mhm,
We've been through, the war on drugs.
mm,
We've been through the transformation of hip hop into something that we don't
mm,
even recognize. The maturation of, independent women in our culture,
mm,
and all this. It's been years, hundreds of years of this, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to change back overnight.
mm,
Um, but the grace that we have to give, comes with a level of discipline that I don't think and character that I don't know if it exists today by the masses in our culture. Um,
mm,
and that's not me judging anybody. I'm just speaking the facts because the data don't lie. You know what I mean? We have to sit down and have a conversation where men are talking to men and women are talking to women, but we got too many women talking about what they see as a good man, which is not really a good man, and we got men talking to women, trying to explain to them what they want from a woman that they haven't earned.
mm,
And so that's where the disconnect, in my opinion, comes from in the black community and the black relationships. Me being married 23 years is one of the most important things that's ever happened to me because I grew up different. And then my oldest two children, I never imagined not being in the household with my children, and it didn't work out with their mother. Um, and that hurt. It hurt because it took me. Um, my son is 29 years old now, and he and I have dinners and lunches, and we hang out so that he can get to know me, and I can teach him how to be the man I was supposed to teach him at 14, 13. I'm teaching him that at 29 years old. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? And so I lost a lot of that time. I'm just fortunate enough that he was able to forgive me, and I was able to, you know, stay fighting for, his attention and making sure that he appreciates, what I had to sacrifice to get his life, to give him a better life than I had, to help him understand what that looks like. And the funny thing is my son and I went through depression kind of a little bit at the same time, so we were able to support each
mm,
other.
mm,
I don't want to tell his story, but we did, overlap, and we were able to have some conversations that were good for both of us. But I will say that, the black family is the thing that's going to get our culture back. But until we come up with what that black family looks like, and it's not do whatever you want and, make me happy. That, like, I feel like going into when you're in a relationship, your job isn't to tell people how to make you happy. Your job is to bring how do you make them happy and how do you make them. And if both people are
preach, brother.
genuinely doing it, I don't. You can have the conversation about any tough time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm, mm,
But I think, you know because of technology and whatever else that we've invented to make our lives more accessible to, instant gratification, it's made us more selfish, and that grace has been lost.
How do you think your father handled it, and how did you handle when you went to your father? How did he handle when he had to answer that question, like where you was at, why you wasn't in my life, and how did you handle that when your son asked you that question?
Um, my dad, old school, man. Like I said, he come from the era of, like, if you want a relationship with me, you need to call because I'm the adult. You know what I'm saying? And now we have, it's, like, nowadays it's like it's not the kid's fault, it's your fault. And I think there's
Yeah.
a balance between the two. I think there's a balance
Okay.
somewhere
Okay.
between the two.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
just but I remember, like I said, being angry at my father for, you know, not being there for my mother when she needed him most, and,
Mm.
like, things like that. But then I also remember, you know, being in the NBA, and, you know, when my mother passed away, the last thing she said to me was take care of your family, and I proposed to my kid's mother at the time, and,
Mm.
you know, and I cut off all other women and blah 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 blah, and I was just gonna do the right thing, and I was 25, 24 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the mistakes and choices that I made, she couldn't get over it, and I didn't know how to give grace either. And so I was like, listen, I'm not going to be apologizing for the rest of my life on something that I can't change.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And at 24 years old, I was like, listen, I ended up in jail because of something that didn't happen. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I know
I,
how
I
those
was getting
stories
ready to
are.
go to a game, and she's making a fuss. She was 5 months pregnant, and I called the cops so that I could get my stuff out the house. And when they came, I didn't realize that some laws had changed, and any domestic disturbance, somebody had to go downtown. And there was no physical abuse,
Mm.
nothing like that. But that woke me up to a point where I was like, this is not going to work between the two of us. So that was the end of the relationship for us. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But going through those experiences helped me understand the fight that my father was having with coming from South Carolina, and having a whole new life experience where attractive guy, bunch of women, you know, working hard working, lower class family. His father built their house. They tended a garden, in South Carolina, and now you in Jersey City, and you a DJ. All the women on you. Like,
Mm.
when I got to a point where I felt that for the first time, it helped me understand his fight. And you like, it's
Mm.
new.
Kind of
You
like,
want to, yeah,
on Love and Basketball when Quincy dad was talking to him when he was like,
yep.
you go after the game over. This how many being waiting for you, and then it's that
Oh
one that
man,
get to your door, and
no
and he
question.
and he knew his son didn't understand. His son was only in high school at the time. He like, you don't even know what's gonna be waiting for you out there, bro. Yeah, so
You
I
have no clue. I have that
mhm.
conversation, and you saw one of my posts the other day. I talked to my son, taking him to school in the morning, and I always tell him, and I used to tell this to my brothers and my sisters. You guys don't understand what I'm saying at 13 years old, but when you need this information, you're gonna remember this conversation.
Mm,
And I used to have
indeed.
conversations with them, explaining to them the negativity, the bad decisions that I made, the good decisions that I made, so that they didn't hear it for the first time when they needed it. Regardless of what
Mhm.
decision they made, it wasn't the first time they heard it. So my son is 9 years old. I have these conversations with him because he's intelligent enough to remember, man, like, my son got this thing where he never tells anybody he loves them. He's got the stone face. He won't say I love you.
Mm,
And me
mm,
and my wife would be like, "We love you. Good night." And he'd be like, "Okay." And
mm,
so I've been having this conversation with him, going, "Hey, man. like you're 9 years old now, and I get it. When you was young, you didn't do it, and it was funny. I was like, but I'm just sharing with you my experience. My mother's not here, and I would give anything for her to hear me say I love you. And I was like,
mm,
I just want you to understand that there's going to be a time in your life. It's not about, if, it's going to be when your mom's not here to make sure you got the nuggets that you want. And you're going to wish you told her you love her. So I'm not telling you when to say it. I'm just telling you it would make her day. And I promise you, it's not going to be enough when you want to hear it again and when you want to say it to her again. And he's 9 years old. He might not be able to process that right now,
mm-hmm.
but he got the information.
Indeed. Indeed. And it's crazy in closing on this joint, then we're gonna go to the last topic. Um, I went through that with my father, man. Man, my father ain't get cool until I was 44, right before I had to testify at the trial. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and I remember after doing my 12 steps, one of the steps I had to make amends. And I had to make amends to my father because when he tried to get in my life in my 30s, I gave him a hard time. And
Hmm.
fast forward, that was one of the toughest things I had to do. So we got cool around 44. We super tight now, but a father's love is always needed. I remember during COVID, I was having an event in Philly because Jersey was shut down.
Right.
And it was the first basketball event that I had that my dad came to. And when he came in there, it was a feeling I got. And when he came over, I'm 44 at the time, bro. 44, somewhere around there. 45, somewhere around there. And he told me he was proud of me. And it almost brought me to tears at that age.
Right.
Because that's all I wanted for all of those other years. You get what I'm saying?
Oh
Like,
yeah, I do.
and the fact of what you was talking about, once I learned how to forgive him, it took a lot of pain and anger out of me. And
Yep.
I was able to
And you can
love
have
other
the regular.
people.
Then you can have a regular conversation with them.
Facts. Facts.
Whereas
Facts. Facts.
before you led with the anger and you
Yep.
closed your mind off. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Then I started to, and then once I got married, I started being able to ask him those questions about what marriage and why'd you make the decision. And then we started
Mm-hmm.
comparing notes. Like, yeah, she had a fat head. That's all it was. Like,
Me and my dad do the same thing.
yeah, like it was that simple. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
my dad's been married, 20. I've been married 23 years. My dad's probably been married 27 or 29 years now. So, his and it's funny because my dad's wife is like 18 months older than my wife.
And the real deep part that you talk about is, man, you talked about this before coming on. A lot of times we never hear the men's side of the story, and most of the time they're painted as the villain. So you
Yep.
don't really know why they wasn't together no more. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you don't really
Right.
get to hear his side of the story a lot of times. You know what I mean?
And
So
the
so
media, the media don't do a good job. They always do a good job highlighting what happened to women. It's always a
mm-hmm,
way, but it's like I'm not knocking. I want women to be able to tell their story, but I want to have enough platforms where men can tell their stories. Not so that I don't want what it's not about, like feeling sorry for them either.
mm-hmm,
It's really just about them just talking because a lot of us don't like talking about the bad things that happen to us,
100%.
and being able to learn from those things so that we could improve and be better. Like we got to do a better job as men, and that's where the letter I wrote after talking to my son that day that you read online.
Mm-hmm,
I wanted to make sure that people could share with young men in their life that it's okay. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
It's okay.
mm-hmm.
It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay, to not be where you need to be right this minute. But what you at some point you're gonna have to take responsibility for it, and you're gonna have to start building up yourself so that you could present yourself better in the world.
Indeed, indeed. Now, finally, the subject that everybody in the world is talking about. What's your feelings on election 2024? Who you dealing with? What's your thoughts on it? And then I give you my thoughts on it.
Hey, I'm since we talk about politics, I'm gonna be political, but I'm gonna be truthful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
um, I think we got two candidates that, in my opinion, Trump, even though he's been president, and I think he did a really good job. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't believe that he is very presidential, and he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
represent well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in today's climate, that it's more acceptable, so that you know, so that he gets a pass sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And with her, I think that just based on uh, the situation, she's not very likable. I think she's disingenuous. Like the difference
Mm-hmm.
between her and Trump, to me, is Trump's always gonna be Trump. I can,
Mm-hmm.
I don't gotta like you, but if I know who you are, I could
Mm-hmm.
deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And with somebody who I think she's a chameleon. That's like she doesn't she's never herself. It's always, I'm gonna try to adjust to the people that's around me or that I'm talking to
Mm-hmm.
appease them, instead of like, I don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And whoever is giving you the information to do that is giving you bad information. How good she could be as president, like her being vice president isn't very good. I mean, and I think it's like, it's just, to me, the likability thing, and your record on what it is that you've not done and allowed to happen over the last 3.5 years. Because when you given a message on day one, you're gonna do all of this stuff, but you actually a part of the process now. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't understand how to get over that for most people. Now, if you want to vote for her, vote for her. I'm not mad at people for voting for
Mm-hmm.
her, but just don't try to convince me that I should vote for her just because you want to vote for her. And just like on the Trump side, I don't want to vote for either one of them, but we got to vote for one. And I think, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, Trump's the lesser of two evils. That's just me.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny when you said it, what you summed it up with, the lesser of the two evils is why me being the Israelite, we don't participate in the whole process. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And because when you we believe in long as we do the statutes, laws, and commandments of the Most High, that He's going to take
Matter
care
who
of
in
us.
position. Right. It doesn't matter who the president is.
Yeah, yeah, He's
I
gonna,
get it. And,
yeah,
and
He's
and
gonna
just to
take
share
care
with
of
you
us.
on that, I voted one time in my whole life, and that was Obama's
Mm-hmm.
first
Mm-hmm.
term. And I just wanted to be a part of history, because I wasn't really.
I can feel that. I
And
did too. Back then, I did too. I
I
did
look
too.
back and I'm like, that was it didn't even pan out the way it's supposed that I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a huge
Mm-hmm.
Obama fan. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
like what he did in his terms for people who look like me at all,
Mm-hmm.
like us, if you want to say. And
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like, you know, in this election, I don't know if I'm gonna vote this year, because, like I
Yeah.
said, I don't really like either candidate. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the one year that I've really delved deep into, doing research and seeing the history behind the stuff that they're talking about, what they represent, where we are today, where
Mm-hmm.
we want to go moving forward. I can't sit here and say that I'm gonna vote. I still haven't made my decision, because, like I said, I've only voted one time in my whole life, and I've never even
Yeah.
shared that with anybody ever. So I'm sharing that. But at the same time, it's a scary time for politics, because no one is telling the truth.
That's what I'm trying to say. So like for us, like especially for me, like when I look at it, you know what I'm saying? It's like I just got to put my faith in the Most High and be obedient to what He wants me to do, and read the Bible, which is tells me, breaks down what's going to happen anyway. You get what I'm saying? So me trying to live a set apart life and not really get involved, because if I vote for whichever people I vote for and they start passing stuff or allowing stuff to get passed and things start changing, it's my belief that I'm co-signing
Right, right.
to whatever
and
stuff
and,
they
and
got
I
going on. You get what I'm saying? Like you, like you vouch for that person. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm gonna have to answer like, yo, what did you? Why would you co-sign for somebody to make these different things transpire when you know it's against what I stand for, what the Most High stands for.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
And I'll say
I can't
this,
act like it's not.
and I'll say this. The way I look at life is, you tell, I just put whoever you're gonna put there, tell me the rules, and I'm gonna be good.
Mm,
Like, I just
mm.
need to know the rules. Like, at the end of the day, you give me the rules, I'm gonna make sure that I get where I need to be,
And
and I'm
that's
gonna
the
teach
dope
the
part because yeah, and that's the dope part because our rules that we go by is those commandments in the Bible. So
no
long as I'm
question.
doing that, I'm cool with all of that, man. And it's
Yeah,
bringing
and
us.
yeah, so that's my
But
take on the election, man. Like I said, I troll a lot of people too.
I know I love you because I do the same
But
thing.
I'm just
That's why I
really,
like coming.
I'm just trying to make
That's
them
why I like
think.
coming
Like,
on your page. That's why I like
yeah,
coming on your page
trying to
because I do
push
the
people
same thing you
thinking,
do. Me
get them out of
too.
the echo
People get
chambers,
mad at me.
man. Yeah,
And
like,
people get mad
that's
at
the
me.
only way you grow is through thought. You know what I'm saying? You got to be
Indeed,
able to think
indeed.
outside your personal space and put yourself in other people's shoes. Like, that's how you grow and build a community. Like, and I don't think, Kamala, she keeps telling these stories on how she putting herself in other people's shoes, but she ain't never been there, which is a lie.
Mm-hmm,
And then Trump, he's always been a trust fund baby, so it's like, I'm not saying that he, like, it's just hard, and life is hard. But at the end of the day, I'm sick of going to the grocery store and paying, getting 5 items, paying $105. You know what I'm
mm-hmm,
saying? I'm sick of, I got an electric car now. I got a Tesla, so I got rid of the gas because that was like
mm-hmm.
$80 every 4 days. You know
I
what I'm
know.
saying?
I
Like,
know. You ain't got to tell me, bro.
yeah, I mean, so like I said, I just want to make sure that I can take care of my family. Um, you know, I'm not. I don't need $10 billion to be happy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
I work hard. I take enough, and then I share that with my family. And if we want more, we go work. You know what I mean? At the end of
indeed,
the day, and
indeed,
and
brother,
and and,
man.
and I what I had to learn how to do was delegate some of that work, so that
Yeah, you got
so that
to.
it's not all on me. You know what I'm
You
saying?
got to. You
And
got to.
and so that's my take on the election, man. Whoever
All right.
win, fine, and I'm gonna be fine no matter who's the president.
All right, Ro, man. I want to thank you for coming on, man. And make sure you get home safe with your son, brother, man. And I'm gonna send out the clips from this. I'm gonna send you a copy of already forwarded over to your page while we was doing it for your Facebook page. And I'm gonna send you some clips. Like I'm gonna be putting them up like daily and stuff. You're probably gonna get tired of seeing yourself on there. And make sure you, like I said, get home safe and take care of yourself, brother, man. May God bless you.
All right,
Thanks for
brother.
coming in.
One love, brother.
All right, one love, man. It felt good to be back on, man. This is Mike. I enjoyed that episode. We had a lot of fun, talk about a lot of different topics. Tune in next week as In the Spotlight podcast has returned. We should have another guest next week. I'll let you guys know coming up soon. Enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom.